In this video, we are going to discuss how to draw the product table and other relevant tables in the ER diagram to store details of products supplied by suppliers and details of products sold. So here we are going to draw the product tables and the other relevant tables in the ER diagram where we created the earlier shoe center database model. This is the continuation of the earlier shoe-centered database model. So we will see the requirements and move to the ER diagram drawing. So we will first of all see the requirements. So this is the same requirement as mentioned in the task 31, where we are going to create a software which is developed by the AI soft company. So we will see the first requirement. Create a product table to store product information. So we are going to create the product table to store product information. So here I have created these tables in which I created in the task 31. So I will draw the rest of the tables in the same model. So here we are going to create the product table with the relevant column. Here I have created the product table with the columns product ID, data type int, primary key field with auto increment, and the next column is product name where the data type is varchar, length 45, and the next column is description where the data type is varchar and the length is 100. So we will place this product table in our model. So we will move on to our next requirement. Create a table called brand to store product brands. So we are going to create the brand table to store product brands. Here I have created the brand table with the column brand ID where the data type is int, and this is the primary key field with auto increment, and the next column is brand name where the data type is varchar with the length 45. So we will place our brand table in the model. So we'll move on to our next requirement. Create a table called GRN to store bill details provided by suppliers when selling inventory to the store. So we are going to create a table called GRN to store bill details. So we will create that table also in our model. GRN. Here we have created the GRN table with the column GRN ID where the data type is int, and this is the primary key field with auto increment, and the next column is GRN date with the data type date time. So here in this column the data is stored as the date with the time. So here we have created the GRN table also. So we'll move on to our next requirement. Create a table called GRN item to store information about the quantities of goods supplied to the store by suppliers. So we are going to create the table GRN item to store the information of the quantities of goods supplied. So we will create the GRN item table also. Here we have created the GRN item table with the columns quantity where the data type is int, and here we need this as the primary key field. So here you give not null, and the next column is unit price, The data type is double, where the with integers and a decimal place there are two places in the data. So here if we, as for an example, if the unit price is 153, the data here stored is 153.00. So double means 0.00. So the selling price also deals with the same data type. So here I have created the GRN item table also. So we'll move on to our next requirement. Create a table called stock to store information about the quantities of items currently available for sale in the store. So we are going to create the stock table to store information about the quantities of goods. So we will create the stock table also. So here we have created the stock table with the column stock ID, where the data type is int. This is the primary key field with auto increment, and the next column is quantity, where the data type is int, and the next column is selling price, where the data type is double. So we have created our stock table as well. So we'll move on to our next requirement. Create a table called invoice to store the bill details provided to the customer when purchasing goods from the store. So here we are going to create the invoice table where the bill details provided to the customer is stored. So we will create the invoice table also. So here we have created our invoice table with the column invoice ID, where the data type is int, and this is our primary key field and with auto increment, and the next column is date with the data type date time. So here we have created our invoice table also. Next we will move on to our next requirement. Create a table called invoice item to store the details of the goods given to the customer after purchasing the goods from the store. So here we are going to create the table invoice item where the details of goods provided to customer is stored. So we will create the invoice item table also. To know the function of these buttons, watch my previous video where I have detailedly discussed about these buttons. So I am not going to waste my time by discussing the function of these buttons. So watch my previous videos. Here, invoice item. I have discussed all the basic areas of this MySQL workbench in my previous videos also. So please do watch those before coming up to this point where I have created the tables, and hereafter I will be building relationship among these tables in the following videos. So please do watch my previous videos and come up to this point where you will clearly understand what I am doing here. Invoice item ID and the quantity. So here we have created the invoice item table with the column invoice item ID where the data type is int, and this is the primary key field with auto increment, and the next column is quantity where the data type is int, and that's for the invoice item table. And that's all for this video also. So thank you, have a nice day.